This week on the podcast, I'm lucky enough to have the incredibly talented Nikita Rosalind with me. This is actually my first time meeting Nikita. Nikita was connected to me through my wife, who we both mutually know. I took a look at Nikita's incredible art, and I really had to have her on the show. So thank you so much, Nikita, for being a part of this.
Thank you so much for having me. This is so fun. I love podcasts, and I'm excited to be on one.
Oh, okay. Wait, is this your first time doing something like this?
I've never done podcasts, but I am an avid podcast listener. I am always listening. Always. Yes.
Well, hopefully this will, I guess, be good enough to keep you entertained and want to listen to it when we're done. Yep. So we'll see. Yep. Well, right off the bat, one of the first things I want to do is thank you for playing the buttress on one of your recent Instagram videos. I love the buttress, and nobody else listens to her music, so I was very excited to hear that you've got the stems from Brutus Part 2 on there.
Love that. I know, music is so important to me. I love using it and incorporating it with the videos. You know, it's really fun.
All right, so before we go dive deeper into that, I want to make sure the listeners have kind of a general sense of who you are and where you've been coming from. So I would start off by saying I generally would describe the art that you're doing currently as very wet, luscious acrylic paint, I want to say, with maybe an airbrushed base. And it's a lot of just like, kind of like, I feel like it's a mix between like custom shirt you'd get on a boardwalk versus like sexy modern tattoo style. How would you describe what you're doing, and how would you describe you ended up into doing what you're doing?
Well, yeah, I definitely started as a painter. I am 100% a painter. And my art is definitely like wet. I think that is like a good description of it. There's definitely a lot of gooiness, color, drips, lots of that. And I incorporate that in my shirts as well. The shirts is like my new baby right now, but I love creating my paintings is really what I want to do. It's just, I've followed that direction with the shirts. So yeah, I mean, just tons of color. My waves is a big part of my work that you see a lot in the swirls and everything. So yeah, just lots of femininity, I think too. Yeah.
So diving a bit deeper into that, you mentioned that you want to do more of the traditional paintings. So is that kind of like your ultimate goal, and the shirts are just your current distraction?
Yeah, I don't know. I sort of just started making them, and they caught on. Like, you know, it's something that the consumer can kind of embody the artwork and like show off. That's why it sells. And that's what I love about it, is that you can actually be the artwork, you know, that you can wear it. And of course, like the whole sustainability part of it. Like I like fashion that's like not, you know, mass produced and things like that. So yeah.
Well, so for the listeners, they are like fully hand painted paintings on a t-shirt generally. And you also do sweatpants and hats and things like that, right?
Yes, I do. Yeah.
So I can say I know no, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry. I think what it is that it's shocking to people. You know, I get the question like 100 times a day, can you wash them? And you know, that you can, they're very durable, but it's just something that people like, they're scrolling and they come across it and they're like, I've never seen this before. And it's something I can put on my body and go out into the world and share with the world. So I think that's why. And I'm like, all right, I love it too. Let's go. Let's keep going with it. But I love, you know, I mean, I want to paint them. The whole process of, you know, making the shirts is painting them, you know, and that process of actually creating. So, but I love my I have tons of other artwork too, and I'm ready for, for showing my work as a fine artist as well.
So I know I personally am always in this kind of this push and pull relationship with the quote unquote traditional art world. Like, I feel like I need to be respected, so I need to hang in a gallery. But then also, I make hardly any money from doing that, and it becomes such a big portion of my mind space to apply to shows, to drop off pieces, to pick up pieces, worry about printing and framing, all that stuff. And I feel like all of that does not translate to sales for me. The things that are making sales for me, that I am getting joy from, don't necessarily translate to what I feel is something that other people respect me for, which is a really weird place to be in. It's like, I don't need fine art, but I also still want it. Do you kind of feel anything like that because you're doing so well with the, I mean, not that the t-shirts are not fine art, but it's not traditional.
It's not traditional. And like, that's where I'm like trying to always balance it out. I'm always like trying to think about, okay, like for instance, my social media, like, I'm like, I don't think anyone takes me seriously as like the fine artist or whatever that really means. Again, like I like love doing shows, but I kind of pick and choose what I want to do with the fine art in galleries and things like that. And yeah, it's like much harder to sell, a big painting versus like, something a little smaller, of course, too. So yeah, try and balance it out is what I'm always trying to do. Like,
No.
and yeah, I mean, if someone doesn't take me seriously, I'm not mad. Not
No,
mad at,
yeah, that's
you know?
very good point. In the end of the day, at the end of the day, if you are making a piece and selling a piece and using that money to live your life, then that's a win. So
Yeah, exactly. I love it. I'm having a great time.
so in regards to that, I know you have really succeeded in the world of social media marketing. So how regularly do you sell a piece through the Instagram feed or the Instagram posts or videos? I don't know. I started that sentence in a way that I couldn't really finish, but I think you know what I'm trying to get at.
To start it all off, I think, like you said, that I started the videos in 2020 when I found TikTok, of course, like everyone did. And
Yeah.
I started to make
We all
videos.
pandemic scrolled.
That's what we did. And we were like, this is so fun. I don't know. And I didn't know what I was doing, but I started then. And at that time, I had a studio in my house, and which I don't anymore. So that's good. um, but I started making the videos on TikTok, and then they started to catch on, and then I moved over because then Instagram started with the videos because they were like, oh, TikTok is like where it's at, and so they had to make the videos, and the videos do really well because again, someone can see their piece being made, which is so fun for me to make the video, and it's like a whole other creative process with it. And then they can have that video forever of their piece that they bought, or they can see it forever, and it just lives forever in the internet world. And then you can, yeah. So I sell a lot from that. I kind of try to post every single day. That's like what the algorithm says is good. And I never really tried. It just kind of like, I was like, I have so many ideas. I have so many videos. I just got to post, but I don't want to post too much, So the everyday thing worked for me. And yeah, so I definitely get the views from social media, like to my website to make a sale. So
If you were to kind of, I guess, describe a typical schedule for you in the studio, like what hours are you working on preparing a video? What hours are you working on paintings and filming that? Is it like going to happen regularly? Like, are you always like, I'm dedicating 8 to 9 a.m. to posting videos. I'm dedicating 3 to 4 p.m. to editing videos. Is it that structured, or is it just kind of like as the needs arrive?
Well, I'm at the studio during the week. Usually, I'm at my other job on the weekend. So I have a designated time at the studio, which has really helped me focus. Like having that time outside of my house, here at the studio, I'm like, I'm here, I'm focused. I have only a certain amount of time. So that makes me even more like, when I get here, I'm like crazy. My energy is like wild when I get here. I'm like making stuff as soon as I walk in the door. Same thing with the social media just like fits into my creative schedule. So I'm not and I do shipping and everything too when I'm here. So I'm like, do everything all by myself. So I do my website, my, shipping out my orders and everything all here, all within, I don't know, 4 hours maybe. So I'm like, I don't know where I get the energy, but like when I'm here, I'm like, it's something to do with my creative energy. It just like I'm just nonstop. So I'm not the type of person to take a day like, oh, I'm just going to do this in one day. That's too structured for me. I have to do like 15 things at one time pretty much, like, and make myself like crazy. That's just how I like to work. And then when I'm usually off, sometimes I am doing social media stuff at home, my off hours. But most of the time I try to like, if I'm not here, then I'm not really, doing it. So it keeps the balance for me.
Oh,
But
that's really interesting. I
yeah,
guess I've been working from home as an artist for
yeah,
years. So I don't really have the ability to shut off.
yeah,
And I do rely on my wife to tell me to shut off.
yeah,
And
exactly.
so, like, before we were together, I would be working till like 2 a.m. and be like, oh my God, what's going on? And
Oh,
so I am jealous of that.
yeah.
And
Well,
that also kind of reminds me of something I heard from another artist I spoke to in an earlier episode, Mark Williams. He mentioned that he appreciates the drive into the studio because he uses that as an opportunity to basically plan out his day.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so, like, that's kind of the benefit of having a studio in your regard, too, right? So,
Yeah.
can you tell me a bit about your process of moving out of your house into a studio space?
Well, I was super, super lucky to get this space. I have family members that were able to, work this space for me to have it and to afford it, of course, because in our area, getting a space is like so rare.
Yeah,
Um,
that's a topic that we bring up a lot on this podcast.
it is so true. And I thank the gods every day that I have this space that I can go to that's outside of my house. I liked my space in my house, but I have two children as well, and having my work there, it just got to the point. It was good in the beginning because I didn't even have that. Before that, I had a porch studio where I was like sitting outside sweating, and so that was the next step up. And I loved that little corner in my office room, or our office room. And then when I moved in here, um, it just was like, you know, everything exploded. I just started making a lot more art, and then just having the structure of going here these certain hours this week, it just helped my process for some reason. And then having that time off, it was good for me as well to sort of decompress, because I can burn myself out really easily with working way too much. So just again, I'm balanced, that's like, that's what I try and keep. You got to have it. Important.
So, let's kind of, I know I'm kind of all over the place with this, but let's
That's
wind it
nice.
back to your experiences on social media. Why did you transition from TikTok to Instagram?
Um, I don't really remember why that defining moment happened. I think I was just like, oh, Instagram has reels now, so I should probably just take my TikTok and put it over there. But as I have learned, the social medias don't like that. So the algorithm doesn't like that.
Oh, I didn't
The
know that.
Yeah, so you'll get that watermark, on
Mhm.
your video. And I mean, I'm very not a tech.
Oh, I see. So you're creating the videos within one of the platform and then exporting that and moving it to the other. So you're not creating it separately like in CapCut or Adobe Premiere or something like that.
And another thing I've heard is that the apps actually want you to be in their app creating the video within their app. So I kind of just did it because I'm really not, I don't know how to edit videos and shoot them. I don't have I do everything on my phone. I'm really super basic, but it's whatever. It's worked for me, so yeah.
So you switched from TikTok to Instagram just because you liked what was going on the Instagram Reels and said, I'm gonna try focusing over here.
Yes. So yeah, that's what I meant to say is that then as I moved over to Instagram, I was like, well, they have the same thing over here. Let me, my videos aren't doing really well. Let me try and go into their app and see if it's different and see what I can do. And then as I've started to grow on Instagram, I think like the sales aspect on Instagram is much better for me. I've neglected TikTok now because I'm like a one pony. What is it? One horse pony or something. I
One trick
can't.
pony.
Yeah, yeah. I can't do like a bunch of social medias at once. That's really hard. That's hard. So I
Well,
tend to
I
like.
have heard that it's better to focus on one rather than kind of strain
Yeah,
yourself out trying to do all of them.
yeah. That's what I think. I can't do that. I mean, I try. So that's why I've switched over, and I think because of sales is where I kind of stay on Instagram side, and I think it's a little more serious as far as art goes. Like people want to see more art on Instagram. TikTok's funny, I mean, I love the funny videos on it, but I don't think there's a lot of like people don't stay for a longer video too. So like if your video's like 14 seconds they're going to swipe on you. So you have to, Instagram, they stay a little longer. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. So what is the I guess time duration that you're usually going for with those videos?
Because I feel like I've gotten to a place where it doesn't really matter. Usually shorter videos do better if they're like boom, 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 fast and magic. My son calls them magic videos to where you like, you'll see, a blank painting and then it's like done, it's like magic to people. They're like, oh, wow. So those do really well. But yeah, I don't really pay attention anymore. I just feel like oh, this is too long, I'll shorten a little clip. So yeah, I don't really stick to a formula though.
So one thing that I've learned from just kind of lightly playing with the TikTok is the TikTok. I'm definitely more of a consumer of TikTok than a creator, but I've
Yeah.
noticed that if you put out into the world of the TikTok world something conversational, people will want to engage with that conversation. While I
That's
feel Instagram is more of a passive activity for the viewers, where just like you said, it's a place to view art, to consume art, to see art. Now, I know with Instagram, you can link it to products. Are you doing that with Reels? Is that possible?
that is possible. I haven't see, and the TikTok shop kind of thing is a new
Mm-hmm.
thing. I guess I'm a little behind on that. I don't do that. I just people go to my shop, so they know where the links are. No, I
Okay.
haven't done that. I haven't really. I did. It's a little confusing, so I just sort of
Yeah.
doing
No,
what I'm
I
doing.
get that. I just know it exists, and the fact
Yeah,
that it exists scares
it
me
does.
because
It
it's one
does.
more thing that I'm supposed to do, but I'm not.
I know. Yep.
So, how are people reaching you? So, someone sees your video, they want your shirt. How are they letting you know that?
Yeah. I get a lot of emails for custom shirts, which is cool because that means that they're actually looking for my contact, and they're serious about, getting some art. DMs, and I have, which is really cool and which I think is really special, is that I have my repeat customer, like my actual collectors that keep coming back. And like, I just love them so much. I mean, that just means so much to me, because that means that you're here for the work, So yeah, I think, and then I get a lot of DMs, I guess,
Sure.
Yeah.
So with the people who do buy from you, are you saving their email address and putting them in an emailing list so that you can reach out to them independently of any of these social media platforms?
Yeah, I am slowly putting that together because, I want to offer, other specials, and like, there's another thing too that I wanted to do is these subscriptions. It's just a lot. So I'm a
Mhm.
newbie, and I'm just, I also just want to make art. So.
No, I get that. I get that. But like to be an artist nowadays, you can't just make art. You got to also be a marketer. You got to be an influencer. You got to do everything.
It's I'm yeah, I'm sweating a little bit. Yeah, it's a lot.
So, what would you say is the next immediate plan? Like, what's the next thing you plan on implementing in the next, I guess, before the end of the year?
The next I'm a terrible planner. That's probably my thing. I don't know if I have a plan yet for the rest of this year.
Okay.
For my business, you mean?
Yeah, like, is there like the next? I mean, you mentioned there's a few things that you're gonna be doing, like
Yeah.
doing email marketing to people, doing
Mhm.
some type of like uh, incentive to get them involved in something before it happens. I was wondering if you had any like concrete examples of like, well, I'm gonna start a monthly newsletter or something. I was wondering what was the next change you're gonna implement or
Yeah.
improvement,
I
I guess.
definitely, because I get scared, because I'm like, well, if social media was gone, how would people find me? So that
Yeah.
is definitely a huge goal of mine, is to kind of somehow branch off of that to people and try and reach people
Mhm.
that way. And just people in my community. Like, I want to branch out a little bit more in my community. I want to have an open studio and kind of meet people. But yeah, I think
Yeah, all
offset.
it takes is one Elon Musk to destroy an entire social media platform.
I could be nobody, like
Yeah.
that's what they
Yeah.
say. And, it's such a hard thing for me, because I'm so not an influencer or like a, you know, whatever social media person, because I'm really truly an artist, and I'm just using that tool as it should be used. I mean, I can reach
Mhm.
people. I think it's so positive for artists nowadays. Plus, with COVID and everything, we couldn't travel, we couldn't
Mhm.
meet people. Um, so many people have seen my artwork all around the world. How would I ever, get to reach people and meet people that way? So I think it's a very valuable tool to use.
So the way I see it, the most valuable thing you can get out of your customer is that email address. Because
Okay.
like we said, if any of these surveys or platforms go down, if any of these social media platforms go down, you still have the ability to get in their inbox. And
Yeah.
not just being in their inbox is a good thing, but the fact that you're in the inbox of someone who liked your art enough to give you money means
Yeah.
that they are way more likely to do it again. So some of the things that some of the artists I've had on have done is like Mark Williams once again, for example, and Vanessa Lovick, who's been on the podcast too. They will kind of use it as an opportunity to give previews of art that's going to be showing somewhere, and give them the opportunity to buy it before the public can see it. So that's one thing that's helpful. Another person we've had on the podcast too before, Madam Barry, she does a lot of Twitch streaming. So I know you do a lot of your post edited content. Do you do any like live stuff of you painting?
Yeah, that's another piece. I don't, because I also maybe want to branch to YouTube as well, so I can create longer, more instructional, more involved videos. Um, but yeah, the live, I've done live stuff before. I I've done a live shirt, I've done live
Mhm.
painting on TikTok and Instagram as well. I get really nervous about that. That is
Yeah.
a weird thing to do, is creating. I'm not like, I don't know. I think that it's such a personal thing, is creating, and when you are live and it's like, it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
I think I mean, a lot. I see people going live all the time, and making money that way. So it's
Yeah.
I haven't
I've got a
quite
friend. I got a friend from college who does screen printing live on Twitch, and by the end of it, all of his prints have been sold. So, like, I'm jealous of that kind of home shopping network style setup.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that is really
Yeah,
interesting. I
yeah.
mean, yeah, there's a niche for everything. I think that's cool.
I think you'll probably need like an assistant to do that well, to kind of
Oh, you
react to all the comments. Yeah.
yes, you probably would. Yeah.
So tell me a bit about the open studio that you're going to be, I guess, revealing in December or be working on
Yeah.
soon. Tell me about that.
Yeah, my studio, what I was saying is that I have a amazing studio space in Gulfport, Florida, which is like just a really super small artsy town. I love it because St. Pete has, it just feels a lot more homey, and but my space is right across the street from this beautiful park. I have amazing view right now. So we've had a couple open studios. I don't think we've done one this year. I share my studio with my sister. That's why I keep saying we. My sister also is an artist, and we share the studio. So we are planning on doing one in December, and we have a little setup outside. We have food, and it's just fun little art gathering. To meet people. I've met a lot of people through, the studio, and it's cool to meet people in person, too.
Mhm.
And then just, selling work from the studio. So yeah, I'm kind of like in the downtown Gulfport area. So it like they have their own art walk as well. So we've been sort of a part of that sometimes too. So yeah, I'm excited
Cool.
for that. I just need to get organized.
So your open studio is going to be, it's the same studio that you've been at before. You're just going to be doing as a more of a public gathering situation.
Yeah.
Is that going to be tied into the Gulfport Art Walk?
I am trying because I work on weekends. I work at the salon on weekends, so I have to really schedule it around
Mm.
that. So if it doesn't tie in, it's usually close to it, you know. But yeah, my schedule is super tight, so making it work on a weekend has been always hard. Um, so as far as dates go, I will put that on my social medias, of course, when we
Okay.
figure that out.
Okay. So you don't have a set date yet for that, but it is something you plan on doing more regularly, I guess.
Yes, we want to. We want to. I mean, I would love to have a store, like an actual storefront someday, like to where I can actually, have my pieces in and my apparel as well. So, but it's just fun to invite people in your creative space. I've had studios in downtown St. Pete. Um, Back maybe 10 years ago, I had a studio at the Art Lofts, and it was just so fun to be around, like, a group creative setting, like, and just like seeing other people's studios and having people come in, and like there's just that energy when people see it, you're like, oh wow, yeah, it is kind of cool, so that's what we want to try and do. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I like that you're um, receiving that energy from being in a studio space. Kind of like the personal struggle I have with whether or not I need the validation of being in a gallery. I also like part of me wants to have a studio so that I can compartmentalize my creativity and my planning in a space that's separate from my living space. But
Yes.
the downside to that is I only feel efficient when I'm at this desk. So,
Mm.
I mean, all the stuff I do is digital too. So, like, if I do watercolors, I feel like I can do my watercoloring anywhere, but it's just a matter of
Yeah.
being efficient, So, I don't
Yes.
know.
Yes.
So, can you tell me a bit about like your history with paying rent for spaces? You mentioned you were downtown for a bit, and then now you're in Gulfport. Like, is there a, because I know one of the themes of St. Petersburg and I guess Florida in general is uh, artists find cheap areas, they start studios, the area gets popular, developers tear everything down and make expensive condos. Um, has
Yeah.
that kind of affected your move and your gallery locate or your studio locations?
Yeah, so my first ever studio space was at the art lofts, like a real studio space,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a great opportunity to be there. And it, again, it was a while ago now, probably about 10 years, I want to say, almost 10 years. And I was sharing with another artist because of cost, of course, too. At that time I wasn't really making anything from art. I just really liked to do it. So I was sharing with her, and the rent went up. And she was a mom as well, and she was like, I gotta go. And I was like, well, I guess I'm gonna go too because I can't take on the whole thing. And it was sort of changing, and I kind of was ready to sort of move on. So as the rent went up, I went out, and I can't even imagine what it is now. I've looked around at other studios for space because I was like, I wanted to get a studio at the factory at one point, and it just wasn't feasible for me at all. I was again blessed enough to have an extra room in my house to then create that space there, um, and then have this space, which my family is just the most supportive, wonderful people, and my dad owns this space and gives me a really awesome deal. So that's how I'm able to afford it. But yeah, it's hard to have an extra space outside of your house to create, and for me, that's so important for my creative process because I'm really, really messy, and I don't like my house like that though, because I'm very neat and tidy at homes. But then when I get to my studio, it's different. So yeah, that's my journey of the art studio realm. And I hope like I'm kind of outgrowing this space. So, I will see what happens down the road with it. Just kind of like moved when it was time. So we'll see. I've been in here like 2 years, I think, almost 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you have any advice for, say, I mean, you mentioned this was something you've done too, but artists who maybe can't afford a space on their own, so then they want to share with someone else? Do you have any advice on being an artist sharing a space with another artist?
Yeah, just make sure I guess going into it that you're with the right person. I typically don't really I've been lucky that I've always had opposite schedules with the artists that I've been sharing with. So that just for me is a little bit better. Although I like the community aspect of it, but when I'm actually creating, it's kind of nice to sort of put my headphones in and or blast loud music and and just not talk. But I think just finding the right person. I've been really lucky. My sister, amazing. She's my sister, so you can't go wrong with that. But I would be
Well, you
careful
haven't
though.
met my sister.
What?
You haven't met my sister.
Oh, yeah, I'm lucky to have a really great one, and she respects me, and I respect her, and we can kind of keep it like that. But I can see how it would be. It's like a roommate, I could see how it would be, if you're stepping on each other's toes, and it could get a little messy. So, um, I would prefer my own space if it was with anybody else than my sister, probably.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, she's
So
lovely.
this is something that I'm always constantly wondering for people who have art spaces, and I don't know if you'd have an answer for this yet, but like I know there is the community aspect as a benefit to having the studio space. You've mentioned that a few times. Do you know if there is a tangible benefit to being involved in an art walk? Like you mentioned, you didn't sell much at the space in the art lofts. When there was an art walk, I guess you got a lot of visitors, but maybe you didn't get a lot of sales. Like, does that just become a nuisance, something that you feel you have to be involved in, even if it's not at all worth your time?
Well, I think I meant that I wasn't selling anything outside of it when I started at the art lofts. I mean, the art walks were super fun, and I did sell at the art walk. If I didn't have the art walk, I probably wouldn't have people. I don't even think I had a website at that time. I didn't use social media much at all. So I enjoyed the art walks, and I did go every month. And we would have wine and hang out and meet people, and it was super fun. So I think that aspect of it was really important for me, and I think for a lot of artists. I mean, they rely on the art walk, and it's a big thing. And I still go out. I love going to art walk and you know supporting artists. I'm all about that. I'm like buying everyone's art all the time. um, so I think that's the community that I love to see. So
Okay, so you would say, as an artist, the art
yeah,
walk, the monthly art walk, is definitely something that it's worth being involved in.
it's worth being. Yeah, absolutely worth
Okay.
being involved in. Yeah. Hmm.
Okay. Well, let's go back to your shirts. You had mentioned in the form you filled out before this that you want to get into more shops. I know I saw your shirts at the work. So how's that relationship been working for you?
I love them. They contacted me when they first opened their gallery, and I had some paintings there, and then they saw my shirts, and Matthew bought a shirt, I think, in my shop, like online, and I sent it to him even before I met him. So they loved my work, and yeah, they bought a bunch of shirts to put in their space. So
Nice.
yeah, yeah, I love that. I love their space and their gallery. It's really cool. Their shop area.
They are great. I've had
Yeah.
them on the podcast. They're wonderful, and I've sold wholesale to them too. So, when
Yes.
people are buying your shirts in bulk like they did you give them a special wholesale rate to make up for the quantity?
Yes, I did.
Okay,
Yeah.
great,
Mhm.
fantastic. Do
Yeah.
you have any like stipulations on like what it would need to be sold as for retail price? Because I had suggested prices, but I made it up to them to charge whatever they wanted.
Yeah, I did. We've done it both ways to where I put a bunch of shirts in there and we were going to do percentage, but it just got just a
Yeah.
little too much. So I was just like, let's just do one, wholesale price, and then you sell them whatever you want. I typically sell mine anywhere from 110 to 140. So yeah, that's the price of usually my shirts. Just depends on how long they take. Um, so yeah.
So how many? I guess what is your? This might be tough to answer, but like, what is the stock you're usually sitting on, waiting for things to be sold? Like, how many items do you have lying around? How many do you feel like, oh, I'm getting low? Or when do you feel like I'm getting low? I need to make a whole bunch, or does everything kind of just sell as you put it up on Instagram?
Yeah, I used to have a very big full rack of shirts, and I was like, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I have to have some sales going on. And with selling in bulk, that really took it down. And then I probably have, maybe four or five. I don't really have a lot in stock. So as far as like having a shop, that would have to be something I kind of figured out how to manage as far as what I post and what I, keep for myself. Um, but they sell pretty quickly. So, I mean, can't be mad at that like, at
Yeah.
all. So,
Yeah. Well, I can tell you there's been a few times that I have sold a piece online and then went to go pack it and realized that I actually had already sold it and just never
yeah.
updated the website. So it's
Oh
going to
yeah,
happen.
yes, yes.
Yeah. I mean,
I
unless
do.
you use like barcodes on everything, it's going to happen.
Oh, it's gonna happen. I know, and I try not to let it happen because I've had those like freak out moments where I'm like, oh no, this is really bad. Like I have to go and get it or make it. I've even remade them
Mm.
because I, for whatever reason, lost it or sold it at an open studio and didn't mark it off my shop. So yeah, I hate that.
Well, Square has a very easy to use like QR code system to track inventory. I've never messed with it, but I really should.
Yeah.
I've got a thermal printer, so I can print them super easily.
Yeah. Yeah. I
So,
haven't
can you tell
that.
me a bit about what your packaging looks like when someone buys a shirt?
Yeah, I use all sustainable packaging. I try to not use any plastic. I don't, I'm all about the environment in that way. So, and then I always do everything is like handmade as well. I like that whole part of. I just want everything to be so authentic. So, and I write a note for my customer, personalize it, stickers, card, and yeah, just showing appreciation for them
So, are you
buying it.
shipping them in a bag or a box?
Yeah,
If someone
it's
buys
a
a T-shirt, for
bio.
example.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how many they buy, but yeah, it's a bag, biodegradable little bag that looks really
Okay.
cool.
Are those custom printed or is it solid
No,
color? Okay.
no, it's a swirly kind of lots of color. I sort of try and
Hmm.
I kind of get a lot of my supplies on Amazon, of course, but I try and keep that within my like style. So,
Okay.
mhm.
I if you haven't heard of this company, I recommend you look up papermart.com.
Okay.
They specialize in like packaging materials, and they have a very robust selection of recyclable stuff. I've
Oh,
used
great.
them to get, or sorry, not just recyclable, but like craft paper material, like made from recycled materials. There it is.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've used them for like a lot of small like wooden boxes or like jewelry boxes and things like that. Fun stuff to browse on their site, Papermart.
Oh, yeah. I'll check that out for
Yeah.
sure.
All right. So you mentioned that you also do a note. What kind of things do you put on the note?
I say I hope you love wearing your shirt and thank you for supporting my small business because it means so much to me. Pretty much that. Yeah, and I give them a sticker, which I think is really cool. And then, yeah, it means a lot to them. I know. Anytime anyone's posted it, they're like, "Oh wow, that's so nice that they, she wrote to me." Because it takes time. It takes
Yeah.
time to individually write out like a whole paragraph, within your package for each shirt. So, but I want to do that and I want to hand make everything and write it and it's important to me.
Well, I get that because you're also trying to do whatever it takes to make that shirt not look printed because it is hand
Yeah,
painted. So handwriting the
exactly.
note just adds to that and further separates it from something that's mass produced.
Exactly. Yes.
So
Yep.
in regards to that, do you plan on doing like screen printed or dye sublimated or direct to garment printed shirts to kind of supplement that and grow out the brand at all?
Yeah, yeah. I've done that in the past. I worked with a company that was local around St. Pete and I did a run of shirts. But it's just yeah, I'm totally open. I'm totally open to that. It would make my life a lot easier. I just can't decide what I want to choose as far as my image goes because I'm changing my mind all the time. But yeah, I mean, I'm definitely open to doing that eventually, so that I can get it out to more people, and then have my painted shirts a little more on my site because they take a lot of time. So
Okay. Well, I know I've called out Mark Williams a few times, but in our episode we talked a lot about having the direct to garment manufacturers connected to your website. So if someone buys a shirt, it then gets printed and shipped out to the customer. So yeah,
yes.
it's a really nice workflow to have that set up. I've got that on my site, and it's a delight to not have to carry thousands of sizes and get one
Yes.
image printed 100 times.
Oh yeah, I've heard that, and there's been multiple companies that I've I'm like, oh my God, that makes so much more sense than trying to get, you have like 15 extra smalls that nobody buys, and you're like, this is not good. So yeah, I know.
So I'm always browsing Alibaba for ideas on things I can get custom made. In the last conversation I had with Vanessa Lovick, we were talking about how when someone buys a piece from her, because she's doing heavy paintings that are framed, and when someone buys a piece from her, like she doesn't just give them the piece, she packages it and wraps it up so that they can safely carry it to their car or what have you. So that got me excited. And so I was browsing Alibaba this morning, and I just got a waiting on a price quote for um, silk screened cotton tote bags large enough to hold my most common sizes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just excited about that, having that branding, because someone carrying that bag around would
Yeah,
also count as marketing for you. I don't know why I
definitely.
brought it up. Just,
Yeah, yeah. I've painted some bags. Bags are good. Some,
So, I wanted to ask you also, was there like a specific catalyst moment where you decided this is going to be something I'm going to devote more of my time to because there's like a legitimate business in here to explore?
um, was there a moment? I think once my first video started to go really more viral, I guess they would say, and people liked it, and I was like, you kind of just follow those little trails, like wherever they lead you, and that's sort of how I ended up here. And my dream was always to be an artist. I said that from I think I was in third grade, and I said I want to be an artist. And I'm like, they're like, what? You can't do that. And I was like, well, I don't know. And I kind of, I didn't know what it looked like to mean be an artist and be successful. And as I've grown and aged, which is wonderful to like actually know what that feels like to be an artist and successful. It just means making what you love to make, whatever that is. I don't even care if you're an artist. I don't care if you make art or make, music. It's it being to create and to create something that can bring you revenue is it's the sweet spot right there, I think.
I know. I always I've said this multiple times too. I don't know if I've ever said it on the podcast, but that moment that someone hands you cash for something you've made, it just fills you with joy because you're like, they like it enough. Because
Yeah,
money is a physical manifestation of somebody's time, and their time is limited by their life. So I
yeah,
see it as that person just gave me 2 hours of their workday for this
yeah,
piece I made, or whatever kind of thing that translates to.
yeah.
And that's just like, you're kind of like giving me a portion of your life, and I
It's
feel so thankful about that.
I know. I'm like, what? No, it's hard to accept it as an artist, and of course,
Yeah.
the pricing aspect of it, and making sure that your time is being paid for. I've given away countless amounts of money worth of my time, energy, and talent, and that's what we do as artists as well until we grow and learn that, you know, that it's worth it. And if you don't like my prices, then, you can move on. But I think that like I'm a creator at heart. So what I make is, I'm a hairdresser as well. So like, I'm always making something for money. And, I've, yeah, I just think that it's something that like I've always done, but I've definitely given away too much of my art or time or whatever, just because I want to.
Yeah.
But I think as you grow, you're like, I'm not going to do that anymore. Most people don't want to like steal from you, but they will.
So, how, I guess, officially are you organizing the income from your art business versus your income as a hairdresser? Do you have those fully separated? Are you incorporated? Or is it just kind of all coming
It's
together now?
all flows together. I've been
Okay.
lucky with my hairdressing job that they support me with this work. and that I can kind of choose my hours there. So yeah, it all sort of flows together in the end as well.
Well, do you have a plan to like make an LLC or form an LLC and then do separate banking and all that stuff?
Yeah, eventually, as I grow, I sort of I'm still like really new to a lot of the business aspect of everything. So as I learn, that's where I eventually want to go.
Okay. So is there anyone that you would say you have been modeling your art business after? I don't mean your art specifically, but someone who say, I like the way they're doing that. I'm going to try doing that.
Man, just a lot of people on Instagram, I guess. I
Mhm.
follow a lot of artists. I think that's where like I've found a lot of inspiration from other artists, and seen what they do and really been inspired by what they do as far as making it a business, and of course on social media, like it looks like it's all fine, of course, like, but yeah, I think that is probably where, but I don't know if anyone's doing really what I'm doing. I didn't even really mean to be where I am. It wasn't like I set out to make what I'm making successful, but I mean, that's where I ended up. So, um, yeah.
So if you were to think about, like, say, your art business income over the last year, what percentage would you say has been from the custom painted apparel versus traditional paintings on a canvas shown in a gallery?
I mean, the the t-shirts probably take, are probably my most profitable income, I guess, piece. But I mean, I do get sales on my smaller paintings. It's easier to sell a smaller painting and to ship a smaller painting as well. I hate having to ship a larger painting. It's very time consuming. I think people like regular paintings too. But
Well, what
yeah,
percentage though would you say is the painted apparel
what percentage?
of your
It's
income,
of my income. Oh, it's probably
art
about
income?
70% right
Okay,
now.
and so you've seen that go up over the last couple years.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay. So do you feel like you need to nurture that and grow it more as a percentage, not as an individual number? Or do you want your traditional paintings to take up more of that pie chart?
Yeah, because I feel like I wouldn't have to do as much work to,
Okay.
get even, if I were selling larger works,
Right,
then I
yeah.
could balance it out with less work. So I think
Mhm.
that's it, because it is a lot of work what I'm doing because I make each one. Um,
Mhm.
I can do maybe 2 or 3 a day, but that's really pushing it. So,
Yeah,
but as far as like, yeah, the artwork, I'd like to be selling bigger pieces because then I can feel
sure.
like I can, you know, make a little bit more with less work.
No, I get that. I get that. Uh, do you feel that there is maybe like a ceiling on what you can charge for a painting on a t-shirt?
I, there's this one brand, Creamy Studios on Instagram. I think that's their name. Sometimes in my head, I don't really know how to say that their names from Instagram. But they do painted airbrushed t-shirts and apparel as well. Um, I love their style. I love how they do drops, once a week, of a bunch of shirts. But I've seen their prices, and if you can get to a level that your name is, it's like a designer brand, and if it's hand painted, it's another piece of art. I literally put it on a canvas and it's painted.
Mhm.
So yeah, I mean, I think as I grow, I can sort of raise the price there. So.
Okay. So is that is there gonna do you think there will be a point in which you decide to start raising your prices? Because honestly, 110 feels very low for a hand painted anything.
Yeah, and I feel like, I don't know if it's my style, as a old woman myself, my style tends to, my audience or my, the people who buy my work or like my work and wear it tend to be a little younger, I feel like, is what I'm seeing. Usually younger females. And I tend to have a hard time, raising it. And I don't know if that's my own problem with that, raising my prices and getting paid what I should. But yeah, I think I'm taking my time sort of working that in. I've been lucky enough to take my time, to not jump in and everyone's raising their prices right now. And, I want it to be accessible to everybody, of course. And yeah, but eventually, I know that they deserve to be, a little higher. So, but thank you.
Well, I think it would make sense to coincide the price raising with some mass-produced options, some direct-to-garment options. Because then you're not alienating people who wanted to buy a piece, but now it's out of their price range. And you're just, instead, you're offering different avenues for people to carry your art. And if someone wants an original, that should cost a lot more. Because that is the dedicated love and attention you're giving to a piece that someone is getting. And it makes sense that you would charge more. And you did mention designer brands. Like Ralph Lauren's charging $2,000 for a t-shirt. So why can't you charge $200,
Yeah, right. Exactly. Oh, I mean, it's totally true. And, I think as you always need to pep talk yourself too, because of course, you get into your rhythm and it's comfortable and everything. And that's true. The name is everything. So I'm just waiting to get my name somewhere, and then I can charge $1,000 for a shirt, and then I'll be really happy. No,
I see what you're saying, but I feel like your name's already there. But one thing that like a bit of advice that I've been told multiple times, and I basically refuse to follow, but I should, is when you raise your price, you're not alienating your existing audience. You are introducing yourself to another audience, an audience that wasn't seeing you, because they're not looking for things at that price range. So it really is just kind of like people of different income levels shop at different places. And it helps to think of it that way, I find.
Yeah, I love that. That's totally true. Yep.
So aside from the soon to be announced open studio you have coming up in December, listeners can follow you at NikitaRosalind.com. That's NikitaRosalind.com. You're also NikitaRosalind.bigcartel.com. On Instagram, which is where you most shine, it seems, is at Nikita Rosalind, and you're also at NArtStudio727. Is that last one for you and your sister?
That is our studio Instagram. Yep.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Any last thoughts you want to share with the listeners before we sign off?
Oh man, I just want to say that whatever you make, just make sure that you love doing it. I think creating just brings so much light into the world right now that is so dark, and you do what you can do in your little bubble, and you can share the light through this. And so thank you for having me on here. It's really cool.
Those are beautiful final thoughts. Thank you so much, Nikita.
Thank you.
Thank you. Art for Profit's Sake is recorded through Riverside FM, distributed through Spotify for podcasters, and edited on Adobe Audition. The music is provided by Old Romans. If you learned anything useful or found this podcast helpful, please rate and review us 5 stars. If you want to learn more about me or my art, head over to chainassembly.com.